We're on? Yeah. All right, we're on. Village Williamsville Village Board work session for June 10th, 2024. Just want to let everybody know that our website is down and it is being worked on. So hopefully you're on our YouTube channel. Okay. Guests, we have no guests this evening. Grants update.
Yeah, I made copies and I think I forgot to bring them in. So hang on one second. Sorry, one of those days. I did forget to bring it in. Yeah. Why don't we move on and I'll do that.
Okay.
After.
Asher Crossing update. Anything? What
Yeah,
happened?
oh, I'm sorry. Ben and I met with Bobby Correal from Natali and their attorney, Jeff Colombo, last Friday. They said they're quite interested in our proposal. However, they raised a few concerns they have regarding the sort of a punch list that they've still been working on, but they haven't heard back yet on some of the issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need to get in like, send an email to Mark to see just to get a status update so I can respond to them on that. And we have not had an opportunity to connect yet. So, you know, I think we'll get it done, but they're trying to use this opportunity to see if they can also close out the rest of those issues out there so that they can.
Well, as in the final inspection per se, or
Yeah, so they can get their actual CFO.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see how it goes. That walkway is going to be a sticking point. Placement of it. Actually, don't mind where they.
And they, I mean, at least according to the, you know, that they got sort of a checklist and they responded to it and they sent it back somewhere and they haven't heard back on some of those issues that they responded to. So I just haven't had a chance to talk to Mark about that and where. So I think unfortunately to get this done, they're gonna want to talk about those issues too, and I think that's gonna necessarily involve the town building commissioner and potentially the planning court.
It doesn't have to be they can get they have other buildings to build, right? Or they get their CFO.
You know, we didn't actually discuss. I don't actually know exactly where they are.
I think they do. I think they are, but they haven't started the other ones yet. So there is still on the east side. So right, as long as it's moving forward. But it sounds like
and then Ben had to go out. So that shortly after. So we just haven't really had a chance to follow up.
It might spur things along.
Right.
We both want something.
Right.
So let's move along.
Right.
And then the sewer line. Have we heard back from?
Yes. So sorry, we have been exchanging drafts. We sent them a revised draft in response to some of their comments which we found acceptable. And so it's back. We sent that back to them. Again, my real estate partner, sent that back to them the other day. So I think that's on track to getting resolved.
Okay. Hopefully by next meeting.
I would think so. Okay. I would think so. It's still in terms of at least getting everything signed up, whether everything gets recorded for the next meeting.
Okay. I have no committee updates. The only event update this Friday, the St. Gregory the Great Race. It's not closing anything, but it will be closing streets in Williamsville proper, including part of Hopkins. Residents know that from 7 p.m. until the last line, they're going to have those streets closed. Yeah, right around the school. And then we do have the letter from Chip, everybody received the letter, so is that under you? It's not really under anybody, is it? Okay, so let's
No, but it was something he was
discuss
asked to do, so, but as long as it looks good, I mean, I think I agree with Eileen, and I think frankly, it would be better probably sent on village letterhead rather than your attorney.
Mhm.
I think this is just largely a courtesy notice,
Right.
and having it come from your attorney may be sending
He's right,
not the right message.
right, yeah, we'll save that for later.
Right, if and when it becomes an issue, certainly, I mean, they certainly, I will say, I mean, I think, you know, there are certainly code enforcement provisions that we can rely on if necessary, but the message here, as I understand it, is we want to work with them to get them the resources they need.
That's true, and the message actually in the LWRP is the same,
Right.
you know, if we can get historic status, then there could be funding, then there could be this. So yeah, that is the message, but my only question is the addresses. How did you determine, it seems like there should be more.
So based on what that's one of the questions I wanted to, but based on the LWRP, it identified the 4 properties between Main Street and the Falls. So those are the ones that I included in there.
There are only 4 properties? It's
Yeah,
a
so
lot.
at least between Main Street and the Falls, I'm sorry, I thought.
The actual falls.
Yeah, the actual
it's
Falls.
on the
Now,
top right, actually.
Does it?
Yeah,
The top. I'm sure the-
I can,
Okay,
I
and
can
so
show you.
beyond that, we don't include the homeowners beyond the falls? Chip?
Again, I was basing what was in the LWRP. If we want to, give me one second.
I think
Yeah, I think we should notify any homeowner who owns that property, you know, the property any part of the wall. Let's put it that way.
To
that's where the
Whether
wall
it's been
ends,
pointed out.
isn't it? Oh, that's where the wall ends.
To Glen Avenue, no.
No,
The
it
wall
drops down.
ends at Glen
It
Avenue,
continues down the way.
and that's where that's part of ours then.
I always thought that that's a natural wall.
No, it's all part of it, it goes here, and that's where it goes around the bend, that's the village responsibility. But there are 2 houses right there with a fenced off property, and that is definitely, that's their.
Here it is. So this is what, after looking at the LWRP, this, I just went to the GIS website, so this is the Falls. This is Main Street. These are the 4 that are discussed in the LWRP. That was one of the questions, but certainly these people, I don't know if this is, I just didn't know how far the wall extends, but certainly if it does extend to these, we could certainly send.
Oh, it does.
Well,
So all of
let's
these?
verify.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah,
it does.
and
What-
then,
I don't know what this actually is.
See, it goes around a bend then, and it comes back this way, and this part, even though there's a house here, like right here starts the village, because there's Glen Avenue. And then it goes under here, but it kind of butts out there and goes back. And this is where we have that big hole, because of the force of the water.
This big one?
no.
No, there's a different one, by the bridge, almost by the bridge, yeah. Why we can't, put a fence up and
We
all
can
that.
extend it as far as you want. Again, I just was basing it on what the LWRP talked about, which was between the Falls and.
I
So
wonder
they
why
were
we
looking
don't
at
even say
they
that.
were looking at the upper wall. The wall
Yeah.
changes. The way it may be 2 separate, I think it's 2 separate builds there. And I'm gonna bet that the bottom one is older. Because it doesn't stand out as much as a man-made
Well, I
wall.
gotta go take a look.
You know,
So
we
let's
can-
verify that.
okay,
And then this part here was confusing to me. Wall extending along the east side of the creek along Main Street is also in private ownership. But I thought.
south, you're right. So actually, this is, what is this, like the parking lot that we're looking
But
at?
we, okay,
That's,
Yeah, that tells you,
yeah.
I think that's,
yeah, well, we were talking about that before you got
Yeah, we
here.
were chatting about that.
I never knew what the line.
yeah, so
So
I.
this is incorrect.
I think that is. Notice that.
it's not right.
It's village property. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
I
Okay,
can,
yeah.
I can-
So-
Make sure.
Sounds like a verification to be able to.
Well, yeah, verification.
Time. Bring your binoculars.
Just because I would rather let all homeowners.
Yeah, no,
learn
I
At the same
agree.
time and not parcel it out. just to-
Well, so that's the thing is where does this end? Because there's a wall, remember, got into the issue with those folks on South Cayuga about the sewer line and there's a wall at the edge of their property too, and it was not entirely clear where the property boundary was. So all I'm saying is, depending on how far we go, anywhere where there's a wall along the creek, that we could be talking about dozens and dozens of properties potentially, and frankly, with a much more complicated.
But let's start with this one because of potential
It's
future
done.
construction.
Yeah,
And I want to make sure that, this
I
letter is received by
maybe
anything
should
before anything occurs.
touch base with Wendy then too, is the author of this document, that
yeah, because I don't know.
because the LW, this is what was, it doesn't, at least project 18 here on the LWRP does not talk about the entire length of Pelican Creek where it runs through the village, where there may be a wall.
I
Right.
don't know why she didn't. I'm confused.
Well, the reason that this, from Main Street down to where the erosion is the
Right.
concern is because that wall's eroding.
That's the wall
That's
that's
the wall
really,
that's eroding. That's
Right.
the,
That's
that's
the
the
picture that
fall,
shows
that's
that.
that's the water that's, has the most pressure on the.
yeah,
on
so
the structure.
lot 263, which is right, the one that abuts Glen Avenue, is the village. 263, that must be 263, I guess. Well, actually 283 Glen, sorry. It's basically the part of the park that,
Right, that's
Yeah.
where,
Right.
that's where the handicap parking lot is, basically,
and then
right?
62, also the village of Williamsville. That's the property that is immediately upstream of 283. And then 52 Mill is owned by a private property owner. To the extent there's a wall there, that property certainly extends into the creek. And 42 Mill. So if assuming there's a wall there, along there, we can certainly extend it below the falls as well. I just was basing it on what was written in the LWRP. Now, in terms of south of Main Street, I don't, so Creekview property, the village does not have a strip between that and the creek. It's only south of that. So I'm not exactly where so I guess south of the dam is where the village definitely on the east side
Right,
and the west side of the island, where the island is.
right.
That's definitely all village owned property.
that
So
is-
maybe she's referring to the Creekside
The
property?
Creek, the Creek View,
Creekview?
Creekview Restaurant where it sits,
Okay, then we will not.
because it does sit right there, you can see it from the bridge. Yeah.
There's a
so-
wall,
so
right, there must be a
We
wall.
should include that while we're doing that sign.
Yes. Well, it's called out in the report, it's in the LWRP as well.
Yeah.
Creekview, and then, so the Creekview, and then the properties below the falls, which would be, it would mean, we'd be talking 30, 38, 42, and 52 Mill. After that, the
It's all
village.
village
is
after
all
that.
village.
Got it. All right, good to know. We'll check it out.
Okay,
Thank you.
Right, yeah, let's just clarify those, and then also where Strobel is, that little plaza, that's not part of Creekview. Who owns that little building?
which one?
The one little
Strobel's
Creekview
Antiques.
antique dealer is,
Creekview owns that.
Creekview does
Yeah,
own
owns that, owns
that.
that.
Yeah, that's a long parcel with runs all the way from the Main Street right away down to the dam, basically.
Up from the dam down to Skinner
Yep.
Roundabout, with that's the village. He owns up to where the dam is, just before it's owned by the
That's on
Creek View.
street.
And then from the
Okay.
creek, from the dam going down is the village.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
super.
Yeah, let's
Thank you.
just revise it to include all the addresses that it should, and then we'll send it.
I'm still gonna take a look.
And we'll still verify them, verify them, yeah, we'll verify it. Okay, very good, thank you.
Yep.
All right, that's for me, Deputy Mayor.
Quick question.
Sure.
What would ultimately be a solution of the section of the wall?
Oh,
We're talking about, we got the whole.
yes, well, we did, the Glen Park Drain Board requested an estimate for a survey. And Ben did go out and get an estimate, and just the survey was $30,000. Just a survey, not any work done, just they would go down there, measure it, figure it out, what could be done, blah, 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 it's 30 grand. So we tabled it, because we were hoping that that could be included eventually with the LWRP funding. That was our hope, because, I mean, yeah, it's just for a survey of 30 grand was just, I mean, it's, you know, many people say it's a natural occurrence, so do you just let it go? They're easy fix-its. I mean, you could just stick a boulder in there if you wanted to do a quick fix. But all that, you know, they don't recommend it because it has to be done, you know, through an engineering survey. So it's safe.
Right.
It's all about safety. Yeah. But we're hoping, honestly, that this could all be included in an eventual grant through the LWRP. That's why we did it, you know, so we can get funding for
Yeah,
such
so
historic
the
things.
whole, the part of the LWRP that talks about this is that is really the project is to do a feasibility study.
Mhm.
And it does identify potential, and it provides a cost estimate of over $100,000.
Yeah.
And identifies as potential funding sources, New York State Department of State, that would be through the LWRP program itself, and the New York State Legislative Grant Program. I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to, but Wendy probably does. And then identifies as potential project partners, the private property owners, Village DPW, Village Historic Preservation Community, should say commission, and SHPO.
But we need it.
Well, the first thing is to let the private owners know, and then we can
Work together.
work together with them and
Figure it out.
get that designation, that historic designation, or get some funding. You know,
That should be where that, some of that money that Tom always talks about comes from.
That's right.
We're sitting on the wrong side tonight.
All right, all right, that's all for me. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I have these, did want to talk about one more thing that I did forget to bring up. We talked about it, I guess, individually or whatever, and sort of kicked it around, but the idea of non-resident chair people in budget-heavy committees doesn't sit well with me, and I don't think it should for taxpayer, because the chair sets the agenda. So if you're talking, let's just say parks or trees, that's a decent, parks more so, that is a decent sized budget. And so then the Parks Committee then would be, their agenda would be being set by a could be being set by a non-resident. Non-resident could be in that position. Non-resident members to committees, that's fine. but I just, what you said, that's, I don't know how everybody else on this board feels about it, but it does not sit well with me.
No, I actually agree.
I do too. I think taxpayer dollars from the village should be spent by village residents.
Yeah, I mean, so
And
that's the
managed
other,
by
Share.
village
Yeah.
residents.
that's the other issue here that that I wasn't, and so I didn't, I mean, the part of what this.
Were you reading that, something on that, because we were talking about,
What are we talking about?
we're talking about committee.
Oh, okay, but I'm sorry, I was back to that, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's sorry, I'm like, what?
We moved on.
You are hard at work, and that's fine, you go, you go.
Concentrating there.
Okay, sorry.
No, okay, so you wanna jump back to that?
Well, no, I just, no, because, sorry, you were
No,
talking
come
about
back,
something
repeat
else.
it, 'cause now you're there. No, I wanna hear it.
Well, I just, this idea that we could go and fix, not with village money. I mean, if there's grant money that the state could provide, but remember, we talked, this actually came up with the issue with the stump removal recently. Where the Constitution of the state of New York prohibits a municipality, not the state, a municipality from gifting or loaning money to private property owners. And to the extent we perform work for the benefit of a private property owner at the village expense, that's a problem.
Gifting and.
So that's why this is to work with the private property owners to try to find some resources for them. But
So would it be a case, Chip, that the property owner is actually applying for the grant?
probably, and I think we could probably support that. And again, we have to see,
That sounds more
how
like-
exactly it would unfold. But as I understand, again, the purpose of the letter was just to put the property owners on notice that, hey, these are your walls. And they're important to the village, but they are private property. And so it's part of our officially adopted LWRP that these walls be protected, but ultimately
Yeah,
they are your legal responsibility to maintain them.
and you did state that twice or more. I mean, what you said was accurate, it was
Right.
perfect. That's why we can still go with that letter, and what we do after that, I just want to get the letter out.
But then the private property owner can still choose to not repair that well.
They might, but then we have a property maintenance code that requires property owners to maintain structures on their property. And given the nature of these structures and the fact that if they were to fail and collapse, they would threaten not just their property, but public resources.
Mhm.
The creek. Even though they own, some of those property owners actually own the creek bed downstream. There's publicly owned, it's a publicly owned resource, plus just the state of New York has a interest in this water body. So, hopefully that's, and that's why I tried to frame that we're not trying to, it's really just let's all work together to see if we can make sure that we don't have that worst case scenario.
Right, but I don't want them to misunderstand that financially they're still responsible.
Right.
Well, he said that in the letter, I mean, it's right there, you can't misunderstand this.
Well, when it's potential state grant funds, we cannot apply for that.
No, as I think we could support them. And again, I don't, if we get to that point of actually that, we can figure that out. Like, could we? Maybe.
Well, it's just like, I mean, would it be sort of like a facade grant, right? That they were those municipal facade grants. Remember those, like Kenmore got it, right? Where it's private owner.
But we got a whole bunch too.
Well, yeah, the villages of Williamsville, I mean, the county,
We got a lot.
so don't get me
What I'm just,
started, and I'm not, that's it's a wonderful thing for the business owners and the villages. A lot of these have been coming before the planning board. which has been keeping the planning board very busy. But for the most part, you know, and for, everyone's happy to see that. But honestly, I do wonder, I mean, the county is also a municipal government. They must have decided they have the legal authority to dispense that money, but
It's that extra layer that New York has. Maybe that's the loophole. But that would be sort of the same, like, that's what I was getting at, was sort of like the same line of thinking. Right? Same line of
perhaps, again,
procedure.
we're not, you know,
Well, I'm hoping though that this letter brings those neighbors together.
right,
And that
Right.
they
And
have
they
a
can
discussion and they decide how they want to go forward. And if they have questions, we gladly, you know, give them recommendations, tell them where to look for grants, et cetera. But that's all we're doing at this point.
So, our other question.
Now that the fumes have spread from the gas I poured on the ground. Highlighted about the chairs.
Chairs.
Did you
Committee
hear it?
chairs.
Committee
You didn't
chairs.
hear it?
yeah, no, sorry. So,
You
So
didn't
we
hear
were,
it.
yeah, he drove back into the thing, so I was saying that, we talked about this here and there, but the idea of, non-resident committee chairs. Because the chairs set the agendas. So on smaller committees, that's one thing, but when you're talking parks or trees where there's decent budgets, you know, I mean, we just recently had a case where there was just a couple of years ago, where there was kind of a co-chair thing. Parks that were, and both of them were non-resident. So that, as a resident, doesn't sit real well with me, and they're, but, so, I mean, that's something I wanted to, that was another thing I wanted to discuss before I'm done here. You know, before my tenure's done here, and just sort of went by the wayside, but I figured I'd bring it up now, because if we were gonna change it, and I was gonna be the one to do it, we would have to go off agenda to call for a public hearing for that change. I don't know how involved that is.
To change.
To make it so non-residents cannot be the chair of a committee.
Or the chair of the committee.
What
must be a
committees are we
resident.
talking about here?
Well,
Volunteer.
by,
Volunteers? I don't think no, you don't need a public hearing for that. It's not a local law. I mean, that's just something you can do.
and
That's a
reorg-
policy. Sure, sure. That's just a
Oh, well, that makes
That's
it
just a
easier.
resolution the board can adopt, put it on the agenda.
I think though, that we should name specifically the committee before we go.
Well, that's,
They're
I
all
mean,
of them pretty much.
that's,
Like the beautification committee,
I mean, it's my concern in it is the budget, right?
Right.
It's that, like I said, that parks has a 6 and 7 figure budget at times, right? And so I'm just using it as an example. Trees has close to, not, you know, mid 5 figure, but, you know, should that be driven by, so those agendas should not be set by non-residents. It's just, you know.
I agree.
It's not like there, I mean, it's all board decisions or it's all committee decisions, but the agenda is still swayed by the chair.
I'm just. Patient committee chairman no longer lives in the village.
Yeah, I know, and that's one of
That was
the,
one of
that's one of the situations that popped into my mind, and that would be an unfortunate byproduct of it if that were the case. But, so if you're gonna do an
And that
every
committee is
report,
not, like, their budget is
Minimum.
right,
$3,000.
so, but that's, I
Maybe we
guess
should
that's
do an
something.
amount, if it exceeds it.
But how do you, like,
Because all committees, unless they're non-voting committees,
What do you
all
mean by
can be
non-voting?
non-residents.
You
voting-
mean, sorry, I'm not sure
Like
what you mean.
planning, zoning,
Decision
HPC.
Decision,
Decision-making boards, or I call them what was, they have to be resident,
yeah, so if,
and all others don't, every single one.
Right, but that's not what you're.
I'm talking about just the chairs.
The chair.
Oh, I agree,
Yeah.
no, I agree. But,
non-village residents can still participate.
Yes.
As the
Yeah.
members of the committee.
Just not as the person
Not
who
as
sets
chair
the agenda,
or the
right,
associate chair,
co-chair.
co-chair.
It's just something I'm throwing out there, but like Chip said, if it can be done at reorg, then I guess I can just put my lighter away. That doesn't fall on me being.
So it can be just, it's a resolution though.
Yeah,
it's
just a
policy.
resolution. I mean, you can just, somebody, and reorg is probably the best time to do that, and it's coming up anyway, right? So just
Well, do we-
add it to the agenda for reorg.
Can you set a date, like moving forward, this is the rules, so kind of grandfather?
Well, they're all
in?
gonna get
They all get
reappointed.
reappointed at reorg.
yeah, everybody does.
Yeah, I thought about like sunsetting it,
Yeah,
but the term ends every year
Yeah.
for most
So
of those, except for tree board. It's three-year appointment.
Right.
And we could always make one exception, right?
a waiver.
Yeah,
If it's, it can, for beautification.
Well, that's where the budget size comes in. I see your point.
Yeah, that's what I said.
In a
It's a
sense,
certain
you
budget.
grandfather somebody.
Or
But
if
the
it's a
term
budget,
ends. The
yeah,
term
the
ends.
term
I
ends.
got you, okay.
So a budget greater than $5,000?
Yeah, something like that.
Wait,
Like
What's the,
3,000.
what's the,
Well,
what's the limit for the bids? What do they call it? I should know this.
procurement?
Procurement, what's the limit on that?
It's
One-
like
well,
five. Yeah, what are you talking about? It depends
For
on what the
3 bids?
project is.
Yeah, what's the limit on that? What's the dollar amount?
It is $3,000.
Once it hits three, then we got it.
That's why we should do the same with that.
No, it's a thought. I just thought
I think
maybe it was a little
3,000 is
higher.
good, no?
I don't know.
Beautification usually get?
Beautification got
They get 3,500.
500.
I mean, environmental gets 3.
Well, all right.
I already just put the budget.
Oh.
All right, we can,
Price of flowers is gone up. Because- And they're doing more.
They do a lot,
No,
And I would
no,
never want
It
to
was
do
just a
any
thought.
of
I didn't
them.
know what that number was.
But they-
That's
I
too
don't
low.
want to. Okay, we'll sit
all
on
right,
that
we'll
one.
have to, think about
Well,
that
I
one.
think-
Good luck with that.
I think
Thanks.
We'll figure it
Open
out.
up that
by
can of
year.
worms. Yes,
I support the concept.
I do support it
Thanks.
too. We just have to figure out the amount. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Okay.
Or we can just name the committees where it's specifically the case. That's true too.
Yeah, just leave one off.
We should just make one exception for Deb Ames right now because she.
She was a former employee, she did work.
All right, we'll figure out how we're gonna work on that, but yeah.
We'll get it.
All right, so, the things I put on my agenda was the driveway and sidewalk code changes. Was the first one. Now, there are, and this is conversations with, Mark Berg, Ben, the mayor, emails with, Trina. There are multiple permit needed act while putting a driveway, essentially. Any work in the right of way, any replacement of sidewalks. You need a permit to do any work on sidewalks in the village. And there's also the code factor that comes in, which seems to be being ignored because driveways are not a permittable action, but you cannot cover more than 25% of your frontage from, which is the front line of your house to the sidewalk, or to the right of way, I should say, with impermeable surfaces. And you're seeing 1/3, 1/2 in some cases, a lot now. And these loop driveways, or I should say, you can't go over 25% without a variance
Right.
from ZBA.
And there have been a number of applications over the years for such variances. So it's a little bit unclear to me though, if nobody needs a permit to put a driveway in, how that's being triggered.
You're being a responsible citizen and,
guess,
and
right.
sticking and reading.
Because
the
they're
code
not subject
before
to
you do
site
it.
plan review. Yeah, maybe.
Or somebody catches a contractor digging. And that's not good enough. That is
Oh,
not
yeah,
good
no,
enough.
I know, but I'm just, because frankly, I just, I wasn't really aware until you sent your email that you don't need a permit
Right.
for driveway.
For an actual
But it
driveway.
is, I do, it's true, I don't
Now,
see it in
I don't know if there's issues with like concreting your whole backyard or anything. I don't know if you can do that or not. I don't, but maybe somewhere down the
People
line
do
there,
know you can do that.
well, maybe
I
somewhere
know.
down the line it does change, right? With environmental
Agreed.
concerns or whatever it is. Because quite frankly, I wouldn't want to be living next to that. I definitely wouldn't want it showing up next door, but that's me personally. But anything to do with a driveway then will be covered with the fact that you have to get a permit for a driveway. So we have to come up with a fee and just add it to, what is that, whatever part of the code that is.
It's 87 or
89.
Oh, streets and sidewalks?
Yeah.
So there's that. The second one on sidewalks and streets is the asphalt over the sidewalk. It is already, so it's better to definition, and that's something that you and Mark was.
Well, I don't know that it's a definitional issue. It's definitely prohibited. It's just that right now there's an express grandfathering. Basically, it says what it says now is if you've already done it before 2017, whenever we most recently amended that section, you can keep it there.
Yeah.
Unless and until it becomes a hazard or deteriorates.
And
But so if it still stays in good condition, it can stay there indefinitely. What I understood you were asking is, can we just do a sunset? So now, if it's there, it can stay, but only, all asphalt must be removed
by,
whatever day.
so that's right. So, sorry, this was in the middle of a flurry of a very busy weekend. It does give it a better definition, because then, okay, is it in bad shape or not, or whatever, when we get into that, and then someone goes out and fixes it, or seals it, has it
Seals it,
sealed,
correct,
and blah, 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 and it looks okay, and nobody says anything. In the meantime, it's still staying. Sunsetting it gives it a hard date, and you need to replace it. It shouldn't have been there in the first place. You got away with it in the first place. So my question to the board is, what do you want to make that
Are we
sunset?
talking about number 2?
Yes.
Now, this did not exist in the code before?
I don't know. I'd have to go back
Well, I
and
know
look at
there's
the whole
an
history.
instant where this happened.
I actually think, my best guess, okay, I would have to go back and check the earlier iterations. All I know is it was amended in 2017 most recently. And I suspect, so let me see, I may be able to figure this out right now.
Well,
That actually what that amendment did was to add the sort of saving, the grandfathering clause.
I can't remember doing that, and I don't remember why that was done. Sure.
Okay,
It sounds, the way I read it, that it was done in 2017 so that the asphalt sidewalk that would eventually be replaced, probably within 10 years, because it was going to need to be replaced at some point. And you'd have to put concrete. It must be replaced with concrete, is what it is, if I remember correctly, reads. Okay. So why don't we sunset it until 2027?
Well, I was gonna say within your term.
That's my turn.
Okay.
That would be 10 years, that gives them another 3. And 2027.
Yeah, like spring of June 1st to 27.
By then, they would have to
Replace the concrete
replace it.
and asphalt.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's a safety concern. Black ice on the sidewalk,
I get it completely.
it just screams slip, trip, fall to me all the time.
Seal,
Okay,
some of the
so-
sealer on
Even
asphalt,
on rain.
you know, rain. But, you know, and there's cases where it was asphalt, it got changed to sidewalk, and then got changed back to asphalt. Exactly, so it's just gotta end. At some point, it has to end. It's no more. Anybody that had it sunset illegal. Fines if you, and remediation if you do it.
If you had to guess, how many cases?
Throughout time,
No, no.
what,
Existing
oh,
right now.
existing?
Oh, man, there's a bunch on my street.
Every street.
Yeah, there's probably one on every street. Yeah.
More than one.
I don't think there's any.
So it's several
I don't
dozen.
have- I've never seen it.
I've seen it though. I have seen it. Driving side streets,
I'd say
I've
100,
definitely
few
seen it.
hundred, couple hundred. I'd say a couple hundred.
Fact, it should have never happened in the first place.
No,
Or-
well, that's why I'm
Remember,
asking why.
The sun,
does it
and the
not
sunset
exist?
thing is like, I think that some cases, if a blacktop company, let's be frank, if a blacktop company can get in quick enough, peel it out and put a new one in, and they're gone, it stays blacktop. Right, so, and if inspector caught it, then they get away with it, you know? So when it exists, you know, it's not supposed to be there.
All right, let me ask you again. So to get a driveway installed, we never required a permit before?
Mhm.
I don't understand that.
But there are permittable actions around a normal driveway installation, like putting in a new apron. You are working in the village right away,
Right,
You
then you do need a
you
permit
need
for
a
that,
permit for
absolutely.
that. and if you're replacing your part of the sidewalk.
You need a permit for that.
That you need a permit
Right,
for
I
that as
understand
well. And you also can violate the code for an impermeable surface. Inadvertent, right? So there's probably some people that have done it not even knowing.
Exactly, I'm sure of it.
So do we want to talk about 120 South Township now? We're on the topic.
I spoke to Carol today and they're working on getting that in front of the planning board.
Yeah. Was it planning or ZBA?
ZBA, the notice went in.
Notice went in the
Yeah.
paper, so at this
But,
point, they'll
that
be
is
on the
just-
agenda.
But, yeah, I mean, that's going through the process. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
not
that
really,
has to
that's
go
not
through
really
the
a
process.
board issue at this
Right.
point, but, you know, that was a case where, right, if an inspector or someone else wouldn't have caught it, it would have gone in. And if it wasn't raining last weekend, the cement trucks probably would have been there on Monday and there would have been some unhappy people. So
This came,
they didn't
Wasn't
submit
even-
any permit because they didn't know. That's what I'm saying, we need to
well,
have,
how did you get
She
your?
wrote me out. I got
It was in the- But Carol has been working on it and taking care of it and
She's doing it.
following the process, and it has to follow the process, and if it gets in, it gets in, if it has to wait, it has to wait.
So,
and if it doesn't get approved with the variance, it doesn't get approved with the variance.
Right.
right.
Because it's well over 25% of impervious surface and it's an added curb cut. Chopped into tree roots as well.
Right.
But conceivably, if I'm understanding it right,
They could. You know, as long as it's not more than, that would tick me off, because it's widened. It's widened a little bit more than it used to be, as long as it's not over 25%, but that's why we're putting this permit in
Yeah.
place.
And
Because
there'd be
that
no
part,
confusion.
because part of that process, when you sit down with the, you know, the initial we'll call it a sketch review, it's not really a sketch review, but it's a review, right? You're doing a driveway. Are you going to have this? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And then that's where you find out what you can and can't do without a variance. So,
That's right.
all right,
There's a lot.
I want by
big.
the house isn't very far back from
No,
the street either.
and my personal experience with the loop driveways and the fact that we're trying to do a walkable village and we're adding driveway aprons blows me away. The fact that we signed off on one, our code enforcement officer at the time signed off on that one on Mill, which the whole thing was because they didn't have enough parking because their kids were driving. Well, all those kids moved away. And it was supposed to be an impermeable surface and they didn't make it that way. So they got away with stuff left and right, and our code enforcement officer at the time turned his head.
And that's why we can't do that anymore.
Right.
Right.
Well, this is the stuff I promised I'd do when I came back.
Right.
So, and then number 3 or 2.
Oh,
Third,
That was 2.
So one of the things, this was part of the thing out of code enforcement out of Amherst is like, all right, we're just to start the ball rolling, just some of these code tweaks. And in our public order section, chapter 23, the noise, prohibited noise, section 3, to better define enforcement of noise ordinance. Right now, it says that it falls under code enforcement.
Mhm.
That should not be code enforcement. That should be code enforcement is in at midnight. So that should just be better defined as being the APU. And that was the whole intent there.
The correspondence was marked about it last week, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's easy, I mean, we can just make that enforceable by 8.
Right. So that's, I mean, kind of cut and dry. So good with that. I'm going to call for those public hearings for.
Do we need to add to the resolution as they are? Do we need to add anything like when we're sunsetting it to or any of that? For the public
purpose
hearing?
is calling for the public hearing? No, no, I mean, it's just, we'll publish notice and people will be, that we're talking about adding them.
Okay.
You know, then if people are concerned about that, they can. come
Yeah,
up.
I mean, we can go on the question and then just say as we discussed in work session, June 1st, 27. Unless you think that's too late, unless you want to make it play like. You can pour cement until November.
Yeah.
We can,
Let's,
Yeah.
we'll think about that.
all right, well, thank you for.
Thank you for lighting the fire.
Ah,
I'll be back.
All right, we'll see you almost.
thanks for putting that lighter away on there.
All good.
All right, committee.
Well, if I can, just one more thing on that though. Stay in, keep that conversation and that alive with Mark, right? Because there's gonna be things that, as we said, with this turnover, there's gonna have to be adjustments. And these are now kind of set, the dust is kind of settled and we're rolling with the planning and, you know, with the new setup, then, you know, now we can start making. And these are gonna be, short-term rentals are gonna be another, that's gonna be one of the ones they're gonna want. Because it's just the way it is. Thanks, that's all. And I will pass off all the B&B stuff that I have so far. With like the comments from CBA members and what their issues were, the questions they have about what they would like to see in that. We don't have time to take that on, but I will. To you guys.
Any events?
No, I'll cover it in my reports.
Oh, thank you, Deputy Mayor Delano, Trustee Corey.
Yes. Oh, not bad. Well, section house, Ben's not here, but, he is going to
He's
get
getting estimates.
the estimates. As you know, it's leaking. I don't know if the other have heard. And it's in quite disrepair. I'm just curious, did he actually cover it or not? Does anybody know?
I don't think it's covered right now. We did talk about it this morning though, that I
Because
told them you were gonna bring that
Saw
up.
my email during those torrential downpours last week. Oh my gosh. All my thought was, the section house, the section house, the section house. Because it rained so hard. Remember that day? And I'm terrified that, with any type of water seeping through the actual roof, it's gonna damage what we have inside. So I'm hoping that.
Should target it.
Yeah. But, Ben is working on that. Thank you, Ben, if you're listening. I have a few things. I will talk about Earth Day and all that during our regular board meeting. But a few things came to mind. Administrator Cannell told me that a film crew came and actually did some filming at Glen Park, which brought an idea back to mind. I mean, years ago, I suggested that when there's something like a film company or major weddings, that the photographers or the film crew should apply for permits in the village. Number one, so we know what's going on. Number two, so we know they're held responsible if something happens. And number three, I also wanted to charge a small fee. Right now, we're having incredible work done at Glen Park, the bathrooms, and our budget is suffering. And a lot of people will be using the bathrooms, especially wedding parties. And I want to go back to the fact that I think that we should start charging permits for big wedding functions that use the park for photography sessions. I mean, when I was a photographer in New York City and I wanted to use Central Park, I had to apply for a permit. And you can do it online. You leave your information and you give the fee. You have the fee. It's a way to track who uses the park, but also.
So you're saying just the photographers need to get a permit, kind of like any outside contractor?
Photography, well, none of it, because filming is happening a lot in Buffalo, as you know. More and more people, more and more agencies are coming into Buffalo and filming. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start branching out into the villages. So just to be prepared, I recommend that we have something on site, a permit. If it's a big corporation, a permit fee. I mean, it's something I want to discuss and potentially bring back or start. And I know that we're now starting to do applications online. So it'd be a great opportunity to start a permit for using the parks for bigger sessions like that. What do you think?
I don't disagree with it, especially if it's a big party. And it's taken up like a big corner of like down near the falls, right?
Right.
Remember we talked about this a long time ago. You remember this? I don't remember why it died, but it died for a fairly decent reason.
And I,
It's hard to.
Well, but you know what? I talked about
Scroll in.
that with Sue. I mean, it has to be on a trust basis.
Right.
And honestly,
Like our driveway.
I mean, once the bathrooms
That's a
are,
little easier to catch.
but when the bathrooms are completed, the pavilion, many people are gonna be using that bathroom to change, to do their cosmetics. Because weddings do meet there for pictures. I mean, it's a
What are they doing
prime.
now?
Now they're running over there and they realize it's not a bathroom, they freak out.
Demo buses are blocking Glen Avenue.
Well, all that, the big limousines, the buses, they sit there and they idle, so I don't know how we're gonna approach it, if it's through wedding venues, if it's through limo venues, if it's through, just getting the word out that this is what we're gonna do now.
This may have been why, I don't disagree with it,
I
because I
know.
remember not disagreeing with it before, but it was how. Then,
How
you
to,
know,
how to, I mean, people ask, they could, yeah, every Friday, Saturday, it'll start now in June.
I know,
There's
it's
a wedding
crazy.
party taking pictures, or there's something, families, there's, all kinds of things, so.
What about
I mean,
prom?
there's the small
Yeah,
ones,
prom,
and there's
yeah.
the giant
Yeah,
production,
then there's, right,
right.
Now, the
And,
big productions, they really should be in here signing permits for using the park.
well, if you're talking film crew or something
Yeah,
like
and
that,
we did have a
that's
film
like-
crew here.
Yeah.
And I
And
And
thought,
that's like, those, it's kind of like almost like an insurance waiver at the same time.
Yeah, and-
right?
right.
And they
So-
did call Sue, they did ask if it was gonna be okay, which was great. But next time we have,
should have-
a form that they need to come in and fill out.
Well,
Um,
you do it
Wouldn't
online.
that be covered under the park?
we have none for Glen Park though.
Well, there's no.
No, because we don't rent out the
We don't
pavilion
have-
at all.
yeah.
It's first come, first served.
First come, first served.
So it was used by so many people, we didn't have the ability to reserve it.
So is the issue more, financial cost,
Part of it, yeah.
or is it creating a problem? I mean, we're getting complaints about the.
Limos, we do get a lot of complaints. That's limos sit there and they idle and they pull into the handicap parking lot and they idle because they want to keep the air conditioning on.
Right.
And
That
we've
hasn't-
had those issues.
That hasn't been as big of an issue.
Well,
It used to
because
be
of
a huge
COVID.
issue.
It was COVID related, really good. Everything slowed down.
Well, right, but you would think by this point, it would.
It's
Because it was
been an
brutal
issue.
before.
That's
We would
true.
have, I mean, we'd have a line of the limo buses parked on
Yeah.
Glen Avenue.
Just to help you out on that, when I worked for the village, I used to come in on Saturdays during the summer and just sit down there. There was such a problem with the limos, and we would ticket people that were parking there. They would say, I don't know if it's still happening, but I actually used to work come in special on Saturdays, and then come in, sit down there and write the limos that were blocking traffic. I don't know if that's still happening.
It kind of straightened out though, because then it became known that lot was for limo,
Right.
the west lot.
Yeah, the West Lawn. And it
So-
says right there, there's a sign there.
Right,
Yeah.
and that
And
wasn't,
everybody does
that
walk
wasn't
over
super
from there.
defined before, I don't believe, so it wasn't,
And no idling,
Right on
yeah.
the street.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah. But anyway.
But I have seen,
Mhm.
and it, I can't say recently, but, it seems that.
I would say for filming, if somebody contacts and wants to film, yes, they should have to sign a hold harmless or permit, and get a permit, give you something for that, maybe to start. But I just think following and tracking weddings and photographers, there's just hundreds of them a year, I don't know how they're looking at.
And when proms, like Doug was saying,
And
it'd
proms,
be really
yeah.
hard.
That's all right. Let me get clarity on it. When you're talking about the film crew or filming, are we talking about actually coming in and somebody wants to do a
Documentary.
film shoot or,
Mhm.
because there's some validity to
Mhm.
having the permit. And I've done this a
Yeah.
couple of times
Definitely.
at my location.
Mhm.
And, one of the reasons that we had the permitting, or at least an agreement in place is the responsibility to restore
Yeah.
whatever you did during your filming to its original state.
Right.
And that's an area where it can be a little funky. And if they're coming in here and doing, man wolves, chewing, and they start, believe me,
Sounds like a good movie.
they'll find, well, I have one to give you that pull this out of the archive of actual experience. But,
Yeah,
they can do damage.
They can.
I know that's something to consider.
Well, I
think- I think we should do it for that.
But I
Yeah.
would also suggest like reaching out to, one of the entities that I know is the Buffalo Niagara Film Office,
Mhm.
Rich Wall.
Right,
but
So-
there's also other entities, but, you know, just to get an idea how they,
How they do it?
I mean,
So-
that's not the end all be all, because. you
Well,
gotta
no, I
get-
know that, but, so here's the thing, right, you're talking like, it gets into this weird thing where you could like, talking about restoring it back to, you know, what it was.
Yeah.
All right, well, how much would we wanna allow? for
Well,
something
that's,
like that,
that's part
you
of the
know?
discussion. It's like, okay, what, you know, if you're gonna start pulling off, you know, pyrotechnics or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
But
just
it's not out of,
I mean,
it's not out
building
of the-
structures or
Yeah.
anything like that, I mean, if it's,
We don't even allow chairs and tables. Like,
right,
they can't,
right.
like, they can't have weddings at Glen Park and
No.
setting up chairs and tables,
right.
but pictures, we just treat it as it's a
Right,
public
yeah.
park, you know.
My
we do
thought
that.
is so if you have
They
a
can't
mobile
put anything
crew
on the grass.
and you're filming, well, then the news needs a permit. If you're going down to take shots of the
No,
park.
I'm talking
No,
about
but I'm
somebody
just
wants to come
saying.
in and do a film or shoot a
No,
movie
yes.
or do this.
Yeah.
you know,
Like what
that's
I'm
different.
getting at is like if what to me what would trigger a permit is if you're setting up equipment. Even if something is like multiple tripods or something like that, or some type of sound stuff, or you're setting up some type of equipment, then you're talking permit. You know, if someone comes in with just a camera
Yeah.
No.
to
that's
shoot
different.
something, or just a you know, still camera. You know, maybe that's what we consider, that being the threshold. You know,
Anyway, nothing
construction,
than that. can
constructing
of worms.
platforms for werewolves to dive off the falls to catch victims. That's-
But I just think we should be prepared, and if they are gonna require a permit, if it's a bigger, you know, filming crew, then we should also charge a fee. Like we do for everybody else. All right? That's for
Can we-
future. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
we'll
did-
have
they
to
did show
do-
up last week.
We'll have to
Small people.
define that, right?
Yeah.
The example that we just had is a good example, because the first time they called, all they wanted to do was film scenes from the park, nothing like nobody in it, just they're filming, it was HGTV. They're filming a House Hunters out here.
Oh,
So,
Yeah.
so they just wanted to just include footage of the park in their overall area footage, right? Then they called back and said, the couple has decided that they'd like to make their decision, you know, that part of the show in Glen Park. So they're like gonna
See?
sit on a
Bingo,
rock or
bingo.
whatever
Yeah.
and talk and make their decision.
and you're
So
setting
that's
up-
two different things, right? One is we're just taking some
Yeah.
footage.
Yeah.
See?
The other is they definitely had to set up a couple tripods. Yeah.
Lighting and everything.
And you know what? I mean, there's nothing wrong with having them come in and sign a permit and leave a fee.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
Right.
And it goes back to Glen Park. Where it's
Well, they're
upkeep.
using it as their place of work, and their place of work has insurance, so why shouldn't we have a waiver?
Yeah.
Somehow,
Okay.
I mean,
So we should-
that would be the
That's
very
the
least,
start, yeah.
right?
Start implementing that right away. We can request that.
All right.
And then we'll see. My
Yeah.
question was.
Yeah, I mean,
Charge fee
I
to
gotta
public
think, I'm not, I think we can charge a fee for just about any permit for at least the administrative costs of the permit. Whether we can use this as an income generating, I'm not, I'm not, I would wanna give that some
Well, I
thought.
really didn't see.
No,
the
that's
income
it's just to
generated.
cover administrative.
Yeah, that's
for
fine.
administrative costs. Anyway, okay, well, that, at least I brought it up, thank you for that. The other quick things I had here, we need to pick a date for the appreciation picnic. And that is, so it's not as cold as it was last year.
Yeah, We did it in October, you
It was
know.
way too late,
It's
so,
too cold right now.
I
Yeah,
have to
it's
go
true.
right now, but yeah, so think of a date, that should be on our back burner. You know, the village election is coming up, which I hope you're gonna mention, right, during, but there are two meetings that night, I'm not sure if you're gonna have them, Parks Committees at 7:15 and Trees at 6:30.
I'm
think
gonna
that-
I'm gonna contact, I meant to do it today, but I didn't, if Trees would be, Trees calls one of their summer meetings off anyway,
Okay,
so it'll probably just be this month.
and how about Parks, you think you still have your meeting at 7:15
Um,
on the day of the election?
I think maybe we might want to reschedule
Okay, because I just saw that, because usually I post it on Facebook.
I mean, it doesn't totally get in the way, it gets
No,
in the
'cause
way if
you're
it's
over here.
late,
Yeah.
but, you know, because we do go into that room eventually.
By 9:15.
Right, so as long as it's not going until then, but
No, I just wanted to
I'm
give you a
just
heads
gonna
up. If you want to be in that room, you
alleviate the
could.
traffic.
Yeah.
It's like an hour.
Let me put it out there.
We'll make the motion, we'll cancel. President? I think
And I-
so, I'm not sure sometimes.
And I, just real quickly, I
That was easy,
did come
just
across
cancel the meeting.
the holiday market again. She's starting that. We're good with that, right? We're gonna have a holiday market here in Island Park.
I love it.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that's rolling, because I know she had to check off a few things, talk to vendors now, get them committed. And that's the time she does it, where she sees everybody at Bassett Park and such. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
That's something that's missing.
It's gonna be fun.
The tree lighting's cool and everything and that small business thing, but the
We're gonna have a market on the same day.
Yeah.
Holiday market.
Yeah, that'll be
It'll
excellent.
be on the-
It'll be,
not
Yeah.
in the drive, not in the parking lot.
no, it'll be like, well, part of the parking lot will be included, I'm sure, but you know, this whole area where you have the tree lighting. And then people can mosey down here and go to the market and such. It'll be very nice.
It will be.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, trustee Tori, trustee Hunt.
I'll have the, hearing board during the regular session. Beautification is having nice family event with you. Into those.
Pollinators?
Oh, very nice.
I know the pollinators.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I already posted this to Facebook and it's in our bulletin boards.
WBA is, musical. Seem to go a little, 9 o'clock is,
I didn't hear a peep after 9.
Did you?
I thought I did.
That
I
might have
was
been a really
here.
loud last note that just got ringing. I don't know. No, seriously, I was listening for it because I happened to be in the yard and I didn't hear it. So,
I know Sorrentino's got an early start the week before.
I think it was sound check.
Yeah.
No, I do.
Yeah.
I think it was sound check.
No, they had a band
No.
there. They
I
had
know.
a band there, full-blown band,
I
the week
know.
before. It wasn't a sound
Oh,
check.
you mean
With
date
no
wise.
permit.
Day
That's right.
wise, yeah, without a permit.
Yeah.
Thank
Heard a
you.
lot of these things that happen.
I mean, there's always
We're good on.
the option of not signing off down the line.
Okay, sorry, Shannon.
Sorry.
We're good on 120 South Ave.
Yes.
Yeah, just it's in the process.
So when I came over to help you,
Was
tear
Earth Day?
down
Earth
on-
Day?
on Earth Day,
Yeah.
Talked to the mayor and I walked away thinking I may have just volunteered for something I'm not fully realized.
I mean,
She's built like that, you gotta be very careful.
So, comment that started this was, maybe we could have at the farmer's market, like a table that offers, let people, informs people, markets are volunteer opportunity. I noticed, Dan was there from the tree board, and Eileen's there from the environmental committee, and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more you than maybe some of the volunteers, right?
Mhm.
So that got me thinking, there's certain committees that, naturally cooperative, right, like beautification and environmental. Decent synergy there, possibly. Same with, the traffic and safety and the planning board, they kind of work together with those, but you get the idea, right? So I'm just offering these up right at the moment for the casual thoughts. future discussion.
Yes. And at that time, when we had this discussion, I said, Jeff, you created the trifold. I think you should be in charge.
So,
Of promoting it, like, we're gonna try to develop a QR code and make sure our application is, you can do it from your phone instead of having to print. And then, like, the promotion of it.
You put up a little tent.
well, and so I went to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Yes, and I see the recycling.
Yeah, we're there every weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe we could kind of, share space with them.
Oh, yeah, they're fine. I'm usually there every weekend. I wasn't there last weekend though. But yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Jean Neff runs that little table. She has a lot of, she's on the Amherst Recycle Review. Also a volunteer though, Jeff. They're all volunteers.
Right.
Yeah.
Non-fiduciary to them.
I think it's a good idea to keep this work session so we can develop something to really, even if it is a little, our own little table,
It doesn't have to be every week, every other weekend, or once a month.
Well, I think ideally, if we were gonna have it, it would be every weekend. Ideally, it would be volunteers also.
Rotating, yeah.
I don't wanna.
Right.
I can go there.
Yeah, not every Saturday, yeah, but rotating it, yeah, just setting up a program and rotating people in and out, and just setting up the program.
And I also, when I was thinking about this, it's like, maybe we should bring them, come to work session so that, they can share their thoughts and we can share our thoughts.
The chairs of the committees,
Committees.
yeah, we can do that maybe next.
Because we're getting a lot
Sure.
more volunteer applications, is my understanding.
After those community forum meetings, we got like a surge of women. Yeah.
So being out there is a good.
Yeah, we have 2 members on my committees. They're all excellent, really good. Very happy. Very happy.
Right.
Yeah.
She's the chair.
You have.
I do.
Okay, so committees could be
Before you leave.
for, is where the WBA would come in. Raising for things like more meals.
Exactly. Oh, the WBA can run program.
And our volunteers could, private, fundraising, like more trees or gardens, things along those lines. Maybe we can even hire someone.
In the right way?
Yeah, that's, I mean, and that also comes in, like we talked about, kind of shaming the property owners into that. Maintaining it, just do something.
People have mentioned, they have quote unquote said, oh, the screen of Williamsville was so great and you brought it into the village. But property owners or store owners still aren't taking it responsibly and doing their job. So I don't know how.
Is it their responsibility, sole responsibility, is it code?
It is their
By law?
responsibility to maintain the property, but we can go out and measure the size of the weeds. Seriously, no, seriously, right? If that's what it comes down to. You
Yeah,
go out there,
well,
put some gloves on, the old adage, grab a broom.
even alleyways. I mean, when I just walk up and down the village, Main Street, and I see the alleyways, oh my God, what garbage. I'm like, why isn't somebody cleaning up these alleyways? Or property where nobody is presently working from, like the Bank of America building, which is gorgeous. But the parking lot is a mess.
They're supposed to stay maintained though.
But they're, because what Jeff mentioned, which is very upsetting to me, the bioswales along Share and the Morpat being used as
Morpat.
ashtrays.
I know.
You know, and we go out there and work so hard in those bioswales, we clean them up, and then they're like, they don't care.
Well,
Super cool. when
It's so
people
sad.
small
I
toilets.
don't know whether or not you want to do that. But it might be
Rather than
nice
be
to put
responsible.
a placard somewhere near
Ash can.
those. Says, this is not for this, these are here, this is a natural thing, this is what it's all about. Please do not chuck your butts and your beer butt cans and stuff like that.
Right, and it, yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, maybe
I was
some
thinking of
signs.
making up those little signs. I was thinking of doing that as a matter of fact. I already started doing some research, because even at the bus,
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, maybe
I was
some
thinking of
signs.
making up those little signs. I was thinking of doing that as a matter of fact. I already started doing some research, because even at the bus stop at the top of the Glen, where the bench is, there's cigarette butts. I mean, they sit there waiting for the bus and it's sad. It's really sad.
The last thing for me, we are gonna need some stop signs down on West Spring Road. For that development.
West Spring.
Grove over near.
Take that back to traffic and safety.
Oh,
That's,
yeah,
that's
There
traffic
was
and
a- There was
safety.
a question, I think,
Yeah.
about exiting the church parking lot and having a stop sign here, but is that their property?
I think we talked about this last year.
We can put a stop sign on our
Where?
property, coming out of
Coming out of St. Peter and Paul.
St. Peter and Paul's lot.
Right where you'd be facing West Spring, that exit out of the church.
Isn't this part of that whole West
Yes.
Spring, thing they're
I
doing
know, I
now,
know what
where,
you're talking about.
where Iscalo's
Yeah.
recommending
Yeah.
two
Right.
stop
Yeah.
signs? Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes, it is.
So it's good.
So you want to put a stop sign where?
Well, they mentioned, I thought at the meeting, they mentioned real.
Two.
Yeah, and I wasn't at.
I think it was
my
two.
meeting, my-
There was one like at
my
the end
college
of
spring
Grove,
grove.
one across the street.
And then directly
Well-
across from that is the exit out of the parking lot from the church. There's already a stop sign when you come down,
Right.
Grove
Grove.
from Main
From
Street,
Main Street.
Mhm.
that first, when you
And
get
it's a
to West
one-way.
Spring. Yeah, but there aren't any others.
Well,
One is for people exiting the church parking lot.
so is that the question, whether we can require a parking lot to be installed on St. Peter and Paul's property?
Stop sign
Stop
on
sign.
there.
Stop
The
sign.
parking sign.
Essentially,
Is that what
You
I
said
say?
parking.
Oh, sorry.
no, it's essentially what it is, controlling their traffic, their
Out of
exiting
their-
traffic.
From their exit.
We can certainly.
Here's
put
what
a-
I would, I don't frankly know whether, I mean, it's not our property. I
Right.
don't know that we can dictate the stop sign, I mean, unless it, what
Are
I
they
would
like
frankly
speed
suggest
humps?
is calling them and say, would you mind putting up stop signs?
I would bet that they'd
Like,
be
why would
okay with
they object?
I think we
I would
She's a
bet they would,
school, 'cause it's
because
a
they were,
school. Yeah.
well, they were great with us with the speed zone and the crosswalk and all that. Both speed zones, Main Street and Glen Avenue.
come back. We gotta take a break for 2 minutes to get set up for the meeting. Cut everybody off, we'll come back.
I'm good. I mean, that's.
You ready?
Ready. All right, welcome to the Village of Williamsville Village Board Meeting for June 10th, 2024. And start time 7:37. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Deputy Mayor Delaney.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Hunt,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Delano.
Here.
Trustee Tori.
Here.
Trustee Han.
Here.
Trustee Celeste.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. To approve the minutes from the regular meeting of May 28th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion for suspension of rules for public participation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, if anybody would like to come up and address the board, please feel free to do so. State your name and address.
My name is Doug Richardson, and I live in the village. I got a couple of things. One is I agree with what you did tonight about the chairman for the committees. I think it should be somebody who lives in the village. I think that's a great idea. The other thing I do is on the sidewalks, on streets. I agree that you have to have a permit. The only thing I'm asking is about the expense. If you're making someone have a blacktop driveway and then they have to put in a cement sidewalk, it's a really added expense. A lot of blacktop people don't do cement work. You're adding a lot of money to someone's driveway. And I see no problem with walking. I mean, I walk the streets all the time. I really never had a problem with the driveway yet. I mean, sidewalks raise up. Usually driveways are fine. Just think about the expense you're putting on the people if you make them have to put in a sidewalk, that's all. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Nick Roth, village resident. I'm told I missed quite a bit because I'm not on social media, but I was getting a lot of pictures of social media comments from the action over the weekend. As I was walking the streets, like Doug does, people in their cars were stopping me saying, "Did you hear what they did now?" So I understand that an employee was recently terminated, given the line that the village is moving in a different direction. I just want to say that there's only one direction that any level of government needs to move in, and that's good governance, good, transparent governance. Are there plans to replace this person who has 15 years of experience in the job?
She will not be reappointed, and yes, she will be replaced.
Okay, all right, and you're interviewing for candidates now? And just out of curiosity, does the village, you conduct employee evaluations, performance reviews for the people in the village hall?
At this time, we haven't done one this year. It's our first year. So,
Okay.
and I know they weren't done before.
Yeah, I was just curious how, would somebody leave if it's performance related, and if you're not
It
doing
is.
evaluations, how are they measured? How do you know if they're failing in their job? Do they need additional training, things like that? Yeah, it's just, I'm a retired business owner. It's just a sound business practice, and I was just curious if this is ever done.
Hasn't been, if I can answer, it hasn't been done up to now, but it is something I would like to do because it's what I've done in my past practices as well.
Okay, very good. So, one door closes, another one opens. I noticed in the summary of the budget coming up that under the line of village hall personnel, equipment and supplies, it's going up 33% over the prior year, $97,000 increase. What's driving that increase?
The software.
There's two
There's
things,
two-
a couple things
there's a couple
actually.
things
There's
in
the software that we're buying, we have upgrading to, and we also did add on another position.
Right, and I noticed a position that I'm unfamiliar with, community development aid.
Mhm.
What does that encompass, and is there a job description?
There's
for
a
that?
job description. We'll provide that for you
Yeah.
after the meeting.
Okay, but can you just give me a summary of it right now?
He's going to assist Administrator Cannell with grant administration with
Yeah, community
the community
outreach,
outreach
community
and the
plan.
website.
HPC committee, and the website.
Okay, and how much is the salary for this position?
42.
42. Okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm.
And there is a job description, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. And I want to go back to something when I got shut off the last time I was here in May. In the meeting minutes of April 9th, a question was raised on the status of the cinder block tower at 20 South Long Street, what was happening. And the answer given to that individual who asked was, we are working within the guidelines of what was agreed to 2 years ago with the developer. What are those guidelines?
We're working on that and this is.
I mean, usually in the past, the answer was, we're sending them a letter, we're giving them 60
Gone
days
through.
to develop a plan. But now you said you were working within the guidelines of what was agreed to 2 years ago.
Are you talking about 20 South Lawn?
Yes, I am, Jeff, thank you.
So, yeah, so we had agreed to forbear for a period of time as long as the property owner provided regular updates to the village board about progress and efforts to either complete the structure or to sell the property. They've provided those updates from time to time. I actually just had a recent conversation last week with their attorney. And we'll be discussing this issue later in executive session because there's legal issues that need to be discussed. That's where things are. That's all I can really say right now.
But did you have a time frame for the forbearance?
Well, that's one of there was, I don't have exactly what the parameters were that we had discussed. Look, again, I got to talk to the village board about its options. There's everyone's frustrated with that situation, but we can't just wave a magic wand and solve it.
Understood. Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Meyer family, the village. I just want to follow up on what Nick was asking. I just noticed that in 3 years, we've fired 3 of the employees. And I'm wondering, as a resident, they always service me well. I never heard anything bad about any of them. So I'm wondering why we can't get out of them what the last 3 or 4 mayors did. What's going on? Because maybe, I'll posit an idea. Maybe if we don't like the work of these people, why wouldn't we consider taking this like we did the building and giving it to Amherst? Because with the 11.4% tax increase, with the assessment up to 100%, we can't afford any more tax increases. So why aren't we looking, if you're not happy with these people, why aren't we looking to put it in the town of Amherst?
We're just not reappointing certain people. We're moving in a new direction and we're very happy with people that have replaced those people.
Right, but the residents, they work for the residents.
They do, and they're doing a great job for the
Well,
residents.
we thought the other people were doing a great job. So I think you have a conundrum now because the credibility of the board is being in question because you've let 3 people go in 3 years with 40 years experience. Intellectual capital is, you can't put a value on it. And hiring new people, maybe they're doing a good job for you, but you're setting a bad standard for these people that have been so committed. When I was in business, I would never act like that.
3 people.
Yeah.
Who?
Keaton, Judy, and now Kelly.
Right.
So, again, I'm saying to you, maybe you want to look at it as an opportunity because taxes are going way up, people are unhappy, and maybe you want to look at that and see if the town of Amherst can do a job, because they're doing a good job on the building. So, why wouldn't we look at ways to be more efficient?
We are.
Where with people are your main expense, they're
with-
about 79%
With
of
the
your
new
budget.
people that we have, we are going to be more efficient.
Right, but
We
people
don't-
are 79% of your budget, and I really think you should look at it, and I really think it puts a stain on all of you that you let 3 people go, whoever was here, these 2 weren't here, 3 people go in 3 years with 40 years experience. And my understanding is after one of the employees left, she went into a coma, almost died because of the pressure, And the board never reached out to her, which as human beings, we should reach out to people
That's not true.
after you fire someone and just make sure, send them flowers, send them a card.
We did.
We did.
It's untrue.
Oh my
I don't know
goodness.
where fake news comes from, but it's out there. I
Oh, I'm sure it's Donald Trump, isn't it?
have no
Thank
idea.
you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Good evening, Village Board members. My name is Thomas Frank. I reside at 5403 Main Street. And I'd like to propose a Village of Williamsville, Town of Amherst, Glen Park Joint Board resolution, an amendment for the, it's a greenway project. And I was in Albany for the summit meeting, and I'll give you a copy. That they've got some 500 miles of greenways. They're going to 700 miles, and it has to do with the environmental climate program. That the reason for the Glen Park Joint Board initiative is for the Amherst Central Park Greenway Trail. Okay, now this was in the plan for the village to interconnect to the Amherst State Park, and it was never executed. And that so there's an opportunity here for as far as the what has to be redone is the agreement for ownership, financing, improvement, and maintenance for the Glen Park. And it goes back to 1977. That this project will, the Glen Park connection to the Niagara River Greenway Power Project, the relicensing settlement that goes through 2050. As far as the management and maintenance of the watershed out here, where the as far as long-term, and the second fundamental connection in the agreement has to do with the Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor. As far as the village's connection, that there's history here that's a mystery. As far as Onondaga Escarpment, and I've got, you know, as far as all the kills, and I got a letter from Governor Kathy Hochul, and and I've had some that as far as the development of the project over, we're looking at a $10 million capitalization over 5 years, and I've with Google and I got 400,000 hits on the Ellicott Creek Greenway. That there's this is like a demonstration project. It, as far as the trails across New York, as I said, they've got like 500 miles. They're going to 7.
To 7.
And
Thank you, Tom.
Right, it goes back. It has to do with the infrastructure, maintenance of the water lines, the sewer lines, the
Yes.
highway storm sewers, as far as long term, but also it's will be connected to the school districts as far as the environmental education, and there'll be job employment opportunities.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Well,
Appreciate it.
I gotta go back to the town board meeting.
Okay.
The meetings never used to be at the same time on the same day.
Yeah.
And
I'll
my
manage that.
suggestion is that there be like a period joint meeting with the village and the town. And
Thank you, Tom.
you know,
We talk to them a lot and
Yes,
we report on
daily
it when we
basis.
do.
well, as far as the
We don't
public,
want,
engagement. in the
I understand
process.
that. That's what our reporting is for,
Yeah,
when we talk to them.
okay.
Enjoy the
We
rest
could
of your
spend
evening.
all our whole entire lives in the meetings, but then we don't get
Well, we're
anything.
gonna put you on the advisory board.
All right.
Thank you.
Slow train it. out of town. Whatever that saying is. Slow walk to China. Okay. Tell them we said hello. Tom, thanks.
No, it's okay.
Never mind.
Bye, thank you.
He said,
Sorry.
tell them we said
Thank
hello.
you.
Thank you,
I'll
Tom.
tell him you said hello.
Thank you.
Brian, Copa.
Okay, would anybody else like to step to the podium? Motion to close rules, suspension of rules for public participation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to open the public hearing for the proposed law amending chapter 103 vehicles and traffic, section 15, stop intersections to add a stop sign on Milton Street. Need a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public hearing is now open. If anybody would like to step to the podium to speak on the proposed law amendment, please feel free to do so.
Should I give a brief explanation?
Sure.
So what this is, it's been an ongoing thing on what to do at the end of Milton Street regarding, South Long Park. So what we're doing is we're adding a stop sign on mid-block stop sign. Essentially, there'll be a stop line that lines up along with the walkway that is on the north side that continues along the park. So this is, let me back up. This is the section of Milton between the dead end at the park and California. And this is a stop sign that will go to stop the cars before they turn left into the Asher Crossing parking lot. Just to slow cars down. Said that pathway is just to the, that it lines up with the pathway that's to the north that runs north-south along the east side of the park.
The traffic calming measure for that
Traffic
end,
calming measure.
for that end of the street for people walking over to the park and using the crosswalk.
And we will paint it with hash marks too at the end of that section of the street.
When stepping up to the podium, I make a motion to close the public hearing section.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Reports and resolutions. I make a motion that it be resolved that the following budget transfers are hereby made in the general fund for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. As written, I know there are several of them there. This is a project that Administrator Cannell has been working on with our outside accountants, and so there were several that needed to be moved at this time. I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 2, be it resolved that the following budget transfers are hereby made in the sewer fund for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, as written.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion number 3, be it resolved that the following budget transfers are hereby made in the Glen Park Fund for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 4, a motion that it be resolved that payroll and vouchers in the amount of $186,779.43, covering the period from 5/20/2024 through 6/6/2024, are hereby approved as follows, as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion number 5, be it resolved that Sophie Kephart of 220 North Autumn Street, Williamsville, New York, is hereby appointed as Community Development Aide with the Village of Williamsville at $42,000 per year, effective June 3rd, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And there's that salary right there.
Here it is. Okay. I have no reports this evening. So I will hand it over to Deputy Mayor Delano.
Thank you, Marilyn. Just a couple, a report anyway, the Tree Board Arbor Day celebration event at Farmers Market this past Saturday was an extremely well attended and successful event. Thank you to all the tree board members that helped. Thank you to all the residents that took a sapling. We handed out, was it 120 or 130? Can't quite remember, but it's 130. So, a lot of questions asked and answered that day, and tree board continues to do great work. Well, I'll get into explaining these resolutions I have. When it comes to my opinion about a couple other issues that are coming up today, I'll just keep my mouth shut. But this village is moving along at a great pace on a great path. Say, I've been around a long time, and people want to find excuses to criticize it and to try to accuse it of politics and everything else. When you have 5,500 bosses, you have to do what works. And if it's not working, you make change. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you want to talk about it any further, feel free to stop me on the street.
Or any of us.
Or maybe in my car, at a stop sign, at a light. Anyway. Can you tell it's my second last meeting? Resolution number 1, resolved that the village administrator is hereby authorized to direct and publish notice of public hearing to be held on July 15th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. to hear all persons interested in communicating on a proposed law amending Chapter 89, Streets and Sidewalks, to make the installation of a driveway a permitted action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And on the question with that, there are, as I explained in work session, there are many aspects of installing a driveway that do require either code, following the code, or permitted work. Working on sidewalks is permitted work. Working in the right of way, which means your driveway apron, is also requires a permit. In the code, it says that you cannot cover without a variance from the zoning board of appeals. It says that you cannot cover your lawn frontage from the front of your house to your front property line. You cannot cover it with impermeable surface greater than 25%. So with all those aspects involved, there's been a lot of mistakes made over the years. We're in the middle of one right now that was caught before cement was poured, and that's a favor to somebody. But this is the type of thing that we need to just say, all right, you need a permit. And you come in, they review it. Did you do this? Are you doing this? Well, you need a variance or you need a permit for the right-of-way work. Or now, being that you have a permit for the driveway and everything's good, then you put your driveway in. No more guesswork. Number 2, resolved that the village administrator is hereby authorized to and directed to publish notice of public hearing to be held on July 15th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. to hear all persons interested in communicating on a proposed law amending Chapter 89, Streets and Sidewalk, Section 6, use of blacktop, to better define that all sidewalks should be concrete and no asphalt used on any village sidewalk. And so, okay, you give a second on that.
Second.
So, go ahead.
All those in favor?
Aye. Explaining that is that essentially what we're going to do is put a sunset clause on any existing. This has always been an issue with the village. It's come up. It's come up multiple times, and it's not allowed now. If it exists, it stays as long as it's in good shape. Who's to say what's in good shape? If it's been resealed or a blacktop company comes in and changes it right away and in and out of there before anybody sees it. Because if you remove it now, you're supposed to replace it with concrete. Anything that exists can stay indefinitely, we are changing that. We are removing that indefinitely. We're gonna determine that date either be November of 26 or June of 27. And that's plenty of time to plan. And it's just it's just that section on the sidewalk. That's all it is. It's a danger. It's a hazard.
And it was never necessarily indefinite. It was until needed to be replaced.
Until it needed to be
That- The way it
replaced.
was written in
Well, that's what I'm
2017.
saying, right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, just so was able to, the change in 2017 was not to add that savings clause, that grandfathering. Actually, as far back as our code, I can search it online. That language has always been there. The change in 2017 was simply it used to read, determined to be a hazard by the village board. That by the village board language was moved to allow the code enforcement officer essentially to declare. But because the code was amended in 2017 at that time, that meant basically anything up to that point was still grandfathered. But anyway,
Okay.
but that wasn't the change. The 2017 was not to add that.
Okay.
So that's always been in there. But what the village board is proposing to do is take that out, basically amortize the non-conforming blacktop sidewalks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chip.
Okay, thank you everyone for that. Number 3, resolve that the village administrator is hereby authorized to direct and publish notice of public hearing to be held on July 15th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. to hear all persons interested in communicating on a proposed law amending Chapter 73, Public Order, Section 3, Prohibited Noise, to better define enforcement of noise ordinance.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Explaining that one, essentially in our code, it specifies code enforcement.
Actually, it doesn't specify.
It doesn't say,
Anybody.
doesn't specify anything.
Yeah.
So it defaults to code ordinance or to code enforcement when actually it should be defined as APD. Thank you.
I'm sorry, those hearings, when are you scheduling those for now?
July 15th.
July, oh no, is that July 15th?
That's what they say. I'll say July.
July 15th, because we got to get notice in the paper.
So 2 weeks, no?
It really is.
Nice. I'm gonna have
It's
to draft
already
laws.
All right,
Yeah.
It's already June.
good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks.
You can comment. That's it.
Put away that later.
We expect you in the audience.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor Delano. Trustee Torrey.
Thank you, Mayor Hunt. I have no resolutions tonight. However, I do also want to thank everybody who came out to our Earth Day on June 1st. Special thank yous go to the Village of Williamsville Environmental Advisory Committee, as well as Messenger Woods Wildlife, Earth Spirit Educational Services, Sierra Club, Erie County, Amherst Refuge and Recycling, Buffalo Niagara Waterkeepers, and the Power Market Solar Company. Dare to Repair Cafe, the tool library gave us stats. Residents were asked to bring in anything they needed repaired. And the statistics were that more than 50 residents showed up. 22 items were successfully repaired. 75% of the repairs were successful. 206 pounds of potential waste was diverted from local landfills, and $1,905 was saved on replacement costs. So thank you to all residents who came out and had their items repaired, like Amy, who had her weed whacker repaired. She's sitting right there. Another thing based on environmental action, Erie County and Green Sheen Paint is holding a free paint collection event on June 22nd at the University of Buffalo Park and Ride Lot at 3485 Main Street. And you should register, but it says spread the word and invite your friends and neighbors to join. Registration is www.erie.gov/recycling, and they will take anything that is oil-based and latex-based paints acrylic paints, varnishes, schlacks, and lacquers, primers, clear coatings, and urethane. So be sure you register, but you can clear out your garages and your sheds and get rid of this stuff, and it will be environmentally disposed of. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Torrey. Trustee Hahn?
No resolutions. Beautification Committee is sponsoring a pollinators who cares lecture at the meeting house. There's a flyer right up on the table by Sue. The gardens are coming along quite nice. We're anxiously awaiting the stone at the 1812 garden. And they have contacted the artist to paint the bench. So that's all moving forward quite well. Planning board had an extremely busy agenda. And I have to say, Mayor, they did I thought, an extremely good job. They worked till 10:30 the other night. But they got through the whole thing in a very professional and productive manner. And there's 5 different projects now moving forward that otherwise.
Very good.
That's it.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, trustee Hahn. Trustee Celeste?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no resolutions this evening. A couple of short reports. One is that Parks Committee will be having a scheduled cleanup event for Island Park on the 23rd of this month. But I believe it's an 8 a.m. start. And then regarding traffic and safety, we met last week to discuss the West Spring and Grove project. I'd like to thank the members of traffic and safety. They had very good dialogue with the developers of that project and had some very, very good small tweaks to the proposal in response to the safety of it. And I think that what they made the recommendation to the planning board with those changes, and pretty sure went over pretty well. So thank you for your efforts on that. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, trustee Celeste. Okay, make a motion to go off agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, make a motion to go into executive session to discuss,
Oh, sorry.
to discuss pending or threatened litigation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We will be going into executive session, so
You can stick
you
around.
can hang around if you want, or.
I thought it was just like. No.
That's next meeting.
Next meeting.
Yeah.
You know what he should do? He should run for office.
Who's
You
that?
should tell him that.
Who?
Nick, you can go.
You go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome, guys. Enjoy
Good night.
night.
You do too. Have a good night.
I don't.
Yes.
I was so, I told you. I got to Okay,
All right. Very good. Okay, staff reports. Administrator Canal.
so I was just gonna say tax collection's going really well. People are coming in on a steady pace and that's going very smoothly. We're busy with fiscal year end activities. A lot going on there with the end of the year and the beginning of the new budget year. And we have been updating the website furiously, a lot of electronic forms being created. So we're gonna really modernize that whole process. And we're redesigning a lot of the pages, so much so that we kind of broke our website temporarily, but it should be up tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. We kind of reached our disk space was basically what happened and then it kind of shut us down. So we'll fix that.
Okay. Thank you. Administrator Canal, Attorney Greco? No reports, okay. I just want to mention before we close that there will be a village election on June 18th here at Village Hall, so please come out and vote that day.
From noon to 9.
From noon to 9 p.m., thank you.
And this is the only place for polling on.
This is the only polling place for the village, yes, for village elections. Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you. 8:41.